Nears in the chaos of World War II, spies operated in the shadows, gathering secrets, sabotaging plans, and risking their lives behind enemy lines. But among all the spies who worked during the war, one man stands out not just as a spy, but as a legend. His real name was Eddie Chapman, but to the Germans, he was known as Agent Fritz. To the British, he was Agent Zigzag. And to history, he remains one of the most dangerous, unpredictable, and brilliant double agents ever recorded. Eddie Chapman did not begin his life as a hero. Before the war, he was a safecracker, a criminal, and a member of a London gang. He was charming, manipulative, and fearless trots that got him into trouble but later made him invaluable to intelligence agencies. When the war began, Chapman was imprisoned in the Channel Islands. Then the Germans invaded in 1940, turning the islands into occupied territory. While locked in his cell, Eddie saw an opportunity. He told the Germans he wanted to work for them. German intelligence, known as the Abwehr, was always searching for recruits who could infiltrate Britain. A criminal with technical skills sounded promising. So, they released Eddie Chapman, trained him in explosives, sabotage, secret communications, weapons, and parachuting. The Germans believed they were preparing a loyal agent. What they didn't know was that Chapman planned to betray them from the moment he agreed to join. Day, after months of training in occupied France, Chapman parachuted into England in late 1942. The Germans expected him to blow up a British aircraft factory. Instead, the moment he landed, Eddie walked directly to a local police station and turned himself in. British intelligence quickly realized who he was, a German-trained agent who could be used against the enemy. MI5 understood Chapman's personality almost immediately. He was unpredictable, impulsive, and driven by excitement rather than ideology. But he was also brilliant. He had the rare ability to lie under pressure without hesitation. This made him a perfect double agent. MI5 codenamed him Agent Zigzag because of the unpredictable path of his life. The British then crafted a plan. Instead of arresting Chapman or sending him to prison, they asked him to complete the mission the Germans had assigned him, at least on the surface. He needed to convince the Germans he had successfully sabotaged the aircraft factory. But MI5 did not want anything truly damaged. They saw British engineers staged a realistic fake explosion at the factory using smoke, debris, and controlled demolition effects. It looked convincing from the air, and Chapman sent the report to the Germans through secret channels. The Germans believed him completely. In fact, they were impressed. They considered the mission a success. Carton and their agent, they demanded Chapman return to occupied France for debriefing. MI5 faced a decision. Letting Chapman go meant risking he might double-cross them. But if he went back and maintained a deception, he could become one of the most valuable assets of the entire war. MI5 decided to take the gamble. In 1943, Eddie Chapman returned to France under a fake identity provided by the British. When he arrived at German headquarters, the Abwehr greeted him as a hero. They awarded him the Iron Cross, an honor rarely given to foreigners. Chapman was praised, celebrated, and trusted. All the while, he relayed German plans back to MI5. But the Germans wanted more from him. They assigned him a new mission: infiltrate Britain again, gather intelligence, and sabotage key targets. To prepare him, they sent him to Norway for advanced training, including experimental explosives and new spy equipment. Chapman learned everything, memorized details, and passed the knowledge directly to the British after returning. Back in Britain, Chapman continued feeding false information to the Germans. One of his greatest deceptions involved convincing the Germans that their long-range missiles, the V-1 rockets, were hitting London with deadly accuracy. In reality, MI5 used Chapman to mislead German target calculations. causing many rockets to overshoot their intended marks and land in sparsely populated areas. This misinformation saved countless lives. Agent Zigzag became so deeply trusted by the Germans that they never suspected he was working for Britain the entire time. Even late in the war, they continued sending him money, equipment, and instructions. Meanwhile, Chapman lived a double life, spying, lying, and moving between identities with ease. His operations cost Germany resources, time, and strategic advantage. What makes Chapman's story unique is not just his success, but the complexity of his character. He was never driven by patriotism. He was driven by adrenaline and the thrill of deception. MI5 handlers described him as one of the most difficult agents they ever worked with. He broke rules, disappeared without warning, and got involved with multiple women while on missions. Yet, despite his recklessness, he never betrayed Britain. Not once. As the war ended, Chapman's usefulness faded. He returned to civilian life, spending time as a celebrity, a writer, and occasionally returning to petty crime. His wartime files remained classified for decades. Only later did historians uncover the full story of what he accomplished. Agent Zigzag is remembered today as one of the most successful double agents in history. He fooled the Germans so completely that some German officers continued to believe in him long after the war. His intelligence work disrupted missile programs, protected British cities, and misled enemy commanders at crucial moments. The story of Eddie Chapman reveals a surprising truth about wartime espionage. Heroes do not always come in perfect packages. Sometimes, the most valuable asset is someone who understands danger, deception, and the art of survival better than anyone else. Chapman's life was chaotic, unpredictable, and unconventional, but his impact on the war was undeniable. He was the spy who never should have been a spy. A criminal who became a weapon. A man who navigated both sides of the war but remained loyal to one. Agent Zigzag proves that sometimes the most unlikely person can change the course of history.